Assalamu alaikum. Hi, Oracle Reiki spiritual healer. And I have been, debating with myself all day whether I was going to do this video or not. So, I have been seeing different kinds of disasters up on the earth. And, it keeps happening over and over where there are explosions. Last week or, a couple of weeks ago, we had the explosion of the airplane. We have different kinds of disasters. We had a house that exploded on yesterday. And, I was just looking at the news and seeing all of these disasters. And I was able to compare that to the plagues that plagued the land and plagued society in the time of Pharaoh because of, his narcissist leadership. So we have this understanding that, we have mist or gas coming out of a truck, ammonia. And I think it was in Arizona. I'm not sure. But, you guys, if you know what state the air gas, the ammonia seeped out and a lot of people got sick and they had to evacuate the hotel, just put it in the comments below so that we can have that, we can get a better understanding of what's going on in society when people choose these negative leaderships, whether you're choosing a negative leadership. I wanted to, make sure that I acclimate this to you in the right way. In society, if you choose the wrong male or female in your life, if an entity has been inserted, then nothing is going to go right in that relationship. That person is going to start destroying things in your life. If you choose your husband over your children, if you choose a person over your children and let them do certain things in the relationship, okay, if you choose a female over your children and you let them do certain things in the relationship, that is unbecoming a house that is going to sustain and survive and thrive, then you are asking and you're calling disaster upon the home. You're calling disaster upon you. When you are unfair or unjust, or you live in a way that is unfair or unjust, then you're causing disaster upon you on the land, in your house. You're calling entities into your life, and there is going to be destruction upon everything that you touch in these relationships when you do not act accordingly, when you act unfairly, when you act in a violent, negative, abusive way. When you act this way, you have invited the entity into your life. You've invited the entity into your body, or what has already been there has spread. And we cannot allow the entity to spread to other places and people in our relationships or our lives. So this is the plague that is going on upon the land. It is the same as when Moses called upon the death, the unaliving of the firstborn sons in Egypt. It is the same. His behavior, his conduct was in alignment with disaster. It was in alignment with the entity. And we have to be very careful about these people who we are allowing in our society to lead us. We have to be very careful about the people that we allow in our communities and in our homes that's supposed to be leaders. And this is a perfect example of that everybody is not meant to lead. If you cannot think for yourself, if you are not a reasonable person, if you are not a rational person, you're not supposed to be in leadership. If you're not empathetic, you're not supposed to be in leadership. If you are not a chosen one of God, you are not supposed to be in leadership. So, one of the things that, stuck out to me, and I'm going to give you another biblical story, is that, and I cannot think of the king's name, but when you guys can also put the king's name in the comments below when you hear my story of this biblical story where Abraham and Sarah were traveling through this kingdom, and the king took his wife. The king took his wife because he told the king that Sarah was his sister. So God came to this king and told him, why have you taken this man's wife? And, I'm going to curse you because of that. So, this king was in alignment with God. He was able to hear God. He was able to understand what was being said. And he returned Sarah back to Abraham. Even though he told God, I didn't know that was his wife. He told me it was his sister. And, Abraham was afraid. So we have to understand that when we are under certain leadership, if that person cannot touch the Bible, if they're not abiding by God's word, if they cannot hear God's word, then they're not supposed to be in leadership. And anyone who is in alignment with that kind of leadership, anybody who is in alignment with those lies, pagan holidays, those things that they have, traditionally, interpreted, through the Bible as being a part of their religion, and it is absolutely lies. So those types of people in our family who have integrated with the pagan holidays and religious lies, we have to absolutely, separate ourselves from those people, because as we see, wrath and punishment are up on these people with all these disasters. Every time that, I don't even look at TV, but every time I do catch the world news, there is some disaster where it could have been preventable, if we pay people for the work that they do, and in my family, a man who doesn't work doesn't eat. And when a man is absolutely trying to go to work and provide for his family, trying to do the right thing, then you have to pay that person. This entity, this leadership, does not want to pay people that could prevent some of these, probably these leaks and things like that at the federal level, things that probably could have been caught with the company. All of these layoffs and things of that nature, a lot of things could have been prevented. And we are not even going to, talk about any kind of, holding these people where they are accountable, because we absolutely know that they are criminals and they will be held accountable either in this life or in the hereafter. So we have to make sure that we're doing our due diligence to separate ourselves. We're not selling our gifts to these people. We're not using our gifts for these people for entertainment purposes. We're not using them for the benefit of their society. We are withdrawing ourselves from their society, their jobs, the things that, they would try to put us back into, fields and things of that nature, the way that they are trying to use AI against us. So that, we are out of the loop for jobs and anything else. So we have to make sure that we are unplugging right now, that we have, armed ourselves, that we make sure that we have an understanding going forward, that we have to unplug and stop paying, these bills and things like that, things that we don't need, celebrating things that we don't need. Because they are actually weaponizing society, their jobs against us. They are weaponizing, and God's wrath is upon them for weaponizing society against the black and brown people. And that is why you see so many disasters and plagues upon the system, because it is the same as you would have in Exodus 11. And it tells you about, the plagues and how, he was hardening his heart. against the Israelites. So it is the same. It is to be compared to what's going on in society with this leadership, that a lot of these people who would rather slither in the dark than tell you that they are in alignment, in agreement with, against putting the black and brown people beneath them. So that is why they're just trying to, point out, this leadership, but it is the entire people who voted this entity into, leadership. In agreement. They're in agreement with this person. They're in agreement with saying we can't do anything. They're in agreement to raising the price and, outpricing you in the system. So you cannot afford anything. So you cannot afford to raise your family, go to send your children to school, so that you cannot go to work, and then to boot, they will not even pay you when you do go to work, when you're willing to go to work for them. So we have to look at this as being a part of the plagues, those making, bricks without straw during Pharaoh's time. They're not going to pay you, and they will try to bully you and put you in fear in order to, come to work or make bricks when you haven't given me and equipped me or paid me so that I can, be prosperous in my job, so that I can do my job. You will see this in a lot of, places in society. This is what they have set out for you. So I wanted you to have this idea of what I see that's going on, why all these disasters keep happening, and we're not going to even talk about, the airplane that went down in Florida that, with, it had emergency supplies for the people of Jamaica, Melissa. And so when, you have been a very negative person, when you have given something unwilling, when you have pronounced, curses over any kind of gift to a person and you're giving it to them unwillingly, God will not let it go forth for those people. And, as we still pray for those people in Jamaica, and God will suffice them, and they will get those provisions from someone who is willing to give with an open heart, a joyful heart. So I hope that this message has reached you. Please like, share, and subscribe to me over all of my platforms. And you can read Surah 44 at Dukan, 44:10-11, and you can read Exodus 11 in order to get the gist of all of these disasters that are on the earth, all the plagues, the air gas and ammonia from the truck, and all of this smoke and mist making people sick. So we can do that and read those surahs and verses, those books against this negative energy, so that we'll understand why you don't, choose negative leaderships in your home or society. So I thank all of you for your support. Please leave a comment for me, reach out to me, book your one-on-one sessions, donate to my channel. You can book your one-on-one consultations with me so that I can acclimate a gift to your situation. I'm High Oracle, Reiki spiritual healer. Assalamu alaikum.